Welcome to Fearless with Jason Whitlock. I'm Jason Whitlock, your host. Happy Wednesday. Thank you for joining me. Man, buckle up, get comfortable, grab your popcorn. It's breakfast time. Grab your second cup of coffee. Get your biscuit love order in. We're going to be here for a minute today because we got a lot to unpack today. I'm going to unpack a big idea at in the first segment of this show that'll take about an hour or so. Then we'll bring Steve Kim in and we'll broaden the conversation, talk about some not bigger, but some other sports issues. Shemeka Michelle will join us and tell us what's popping in the chat. And then we'll circle back to my opening segment, but we'll put a biblical spin on it with Virgil Walker and Kevin Donahue and a little Tennessee harmony. But we'll be here for a couple of hours today is my estimation. If I get rolling here on this topic that we're unpacking today, we could be here 2.5 hours. We'll see, but it's all going to be worth it because I'm going to demonstrate to you once again why this show is unique, why you need to be watching this show, how to get you ahead of the conversation, how to make you the most interesting person at your dinner party, your weekend party, your most interesting person at church. You can talk about sports and what's going on in the world in a way that no one else will. You can introduce ideas, suggestions that no one else will have thought of, but they'll be fascinating. And so anyway, without further ado, let me get into today's show. And I want to give you some context to understand this idea that you looked at the thumbnail. We're going to be talking about Caitlin Clark and a league of her own. But I want to give you this foundational piece first. Last week, we started talking about the CIS rights movement, CIS. You know, the left talks about cisgender people. And that is those of us that identify, hey, we're born with a bat and balls, we're a man, we're born with a vagina, we're a woman, we're born XX chromosome, we're a woman, we're born XY chromosome, we're a man. That's what cisgender is. And we need a cis rights movement. And I talked about it that like, hey, we're at the beginning of this with Riley Gaines, with Caitlin Clark, with Sage Steele, with Samantha Ponder, that you can see it in this San Jose State volleyball situation, this controversy with these young women at other college universities speaking out and refusing to play against this man that's pretending to be a woman. And now we've even gotten the details on the young woman on the San Jose State team who was basically a whistleblower and let everybody know, like, hey, we got a man on this team. And we've seen how that person, that young lady has been treated, and now they have to have security at San Jose State volleyball matches because this woman that was the snitch, the whistleblower, the person that did the right thing by outing this man pretending to be a woman, she's received death threats. Other ladies on that volleyball team feel like their security has been violated or is in jeopardy. And so we're starting to see the ramifications of alleged cisgender people, normal people, people with a biblical worldview. We've been pushed to the outskirts and we're the vilified. We're the ones under attack. We're the ones framed as abnormal. And obviously this movement to push us to the side started a long time ago, and it started even longer than this reference point that I'm about to make. But where this, in my mind, started creeping into the sports world is actually in 2003. It's when, and you'll be like, what? How did 2003? How's he connecting it to golf? But in 2003, a woman named Martha Burke, who was the leader of some national women's organization or whatever, wrote a letter complaining to Hootie Johnson and Augusta National Golf Club because they didn't have a female member of Augusta National Golf Club. That's where they play the Masters. It's the most historic golf setting, perhaps in all the world, certainly in all of America. And they didn't have a female member. And this was a big controversy in 2003 when Martha Burke wrote this letter. She didn't think it would be a big deal, but it turned into a big deal because Hootie Johnson, the president of Augusta National, actually wrote a very flippant and dismissive letter back or response statement to it, and it turns into this major controversy. And I can remember writing and saying at the time, trying to get into the guts of this argument, trying to get people to understand, like, hey, I'm all for lack of a better word, integration. I'm all for, women having rights, and I'm all for, hey, we need to have access to power and blah, blah, blah. But I was like, men need their spaces too, just like women need their spaces. Men need their spaces too, just like, and I unpacked the argument that, like, hey, we're pretending like women don't have access to men. And that's why it's important that they're members of Augusta National Golf Club, and women have to have access to these powerful men if they're going to move up. And I made the argument like, whoa, what do you mean? Women don't have access to men? And this is 2003. And I looked over at, in my mind and in reality, I looked over like, well, hold on. In 2000, this woman that I'm dating, that I'm laying in bed with right now, she has no access to me? Isn't this the existence of men? Don't men and women couple off, get married, have relationships? How are you telling me men are denying women access? They're not. Women marry men, date men, and have access. Women have never been denied access to men. So who's really complaining here? Oh, it's women who don't like men, who decline access to men. I don't want to marry one, but I want to be in his golf club. I want to be in his private spaces. I want to be in his locker room. I don't like men. I don't want a man, but I want access to annoy him and to bend him to my will as a lesbian. I'm not going to use a harsher word. Call them what they are, lesbians. And Rush Limbaugh, and I can't remember the exact statement, but some of you may remember, like, the whole feminist movement was about giving ugly women who have bitterness towards men access to male spaces. Because, and when I use the word ugly, Rush is using it in more of a pejorative than I am, although he's being accurate. But there's an ugliness of spirit that really undermines people. Because, again, a positive person can overcome their physical limitations. They can present themselves with a spirit of beauty that may overcome whatever shortcomings they have physically as it relates to beauty. No different than, men with money can be overweight like me, and that can overcome their overweightness. There's a positive spirit. Hey, you can be the funniest guy in the group, and that makes you more attractive. You don't have to be 6'2" and look like Robert Redford to be attractive. Same goes for women. There is an attitude and a spirit and a joy that you can emote that will make you attractive and give you access to whoever you want. And so this whole movement has been about ugly people, bitter people, can't stand men. They've come up with a movement that grants them access to male spaces and grants men access to female spaces. This whole in sports. This is Augusta National, a golf club. Martha Burke is trying to force her way in and force other angry, ugly women in. And what they ended up doing is forcing men also into women's spaces. We're supposed to have separate spaces. It's necessary. Men and women are different. That's why this cis rights movement that I'm talking about, I know some of you don't use their terms, don't use their word, don't use the word cis. Yes, I'm going to use their word. They came up with it, I'm going to use it against them. Those of us that believe in XX chromosomes, woman, XY chromosome, men, we need our separate spaces. It's how the world is supposed to run. There was nothing wrong with the Boy Scouts, nothing wrong with the Girl Scouts, nothing wrong with all male schools and all girl schools. We are different. But they've been on this movement to invade all of these spaces and make everybody androgynous. And it creates all of this chaos, and it creates what we have going on with the San Jose State volleyball team. There is an opportunity to change course, and I keep telling those of you all that don't understand the importance of sports, because trust me, the demonic left, the people pushing this, they understand the importance of sports. They know that's how you invade spaces meant for men and meant for women, and you inject chaos and dysfunction and disorder. So what Martha Burke did in 2003, kicking off that controversy, this is a calculated move that we now, 20 years later, we can see the fruit of that, the demonic fruit of that, all the chaos and everything we have going on right now. There's a solution. Again, just like they hatch plans 20 years in advance, 40 years in advance, 50 years in advance, and then reap the benefits down the road, those of us with a biblical worldview, those of us with a normal worldview, those of us with common sense, we have to hatch our own plans and then let the next generation reap the benefits of that. We have to have vision. Instead of playing defense constantly, they play offense, we play defense. This is why I somewhat reject the conservative movement. You're just trying to conserve. I think we should be on the offense. We shouldn't just be trying to conserve. We should be trying to restore. We should be trying to move the ball our direction. And we have a great opportunity in this moment, and we're going to blow it. We're in the process of blowing it. Caitlin Clark is the gift that has been given to us. Are we smart enough? Are we nimble enough? Are we bold enough to take advantage of it? Caitlin Clark, again, I'm not convinced she's 1,000% with us. But what I do know is she's like a jump ball. She's up in the air. Are we going to go for the rebound? Are we going to try to tip the ball our direction? Or are we going to just sit back and what can we conserve? What can we react to that they're doing? Caitlin Clark is a gift. She is someone who could create a league of her own. How can she do it? How will it help us? I'm going to take the next 45 minutes to an hour to explain to you why we should be trying to tip the Caitlin Clark ball our direction and build a basketball league built around Caitlin Clark. This sounds crazy, but I want you to stick with me and I want you to understand why it's possible, why it's necessary, who are the people that need to be involved. This is a huge idea that I'm very passionate about. I've been marinating on this for a couple of weeks. I've been putting out feelers to people that matter and people with the wealth and the influence that could make this a reality. But I want to now, I've done it in writing, I've made phone calls. I want to now put it in show form so everybody can understand it and understand its importance and why there's a possibility, a chance of this right now. So give me a second. I want to take care of my friends at Flying Aces and Craft Co. They're doing something amazing. There's nothing better at the end of a long day than sitting down in your favorite easy chair with a glass of your favorite whiskey. And hey, if it turns out that with every glass, you're helping support a great American cause, doesn't taste any better than that. It's time to chart your own course with Flying Ace whiskeys from Craft Co. Inspired by generations of American aviators and proudly made right here in the United States, Flying Ace is not only making amazing whiskeys, they're also committed to supporting our brave troops and their families through their partnership with Folds of Honor. They're providing scholarships to families of America's fallen or disabled, and these scholarships allow families to begin to chart their own new course after experiencing great sacrifice. Flying Ace whiskeys are American proud because they're American made, and they're American proud because they're helping to support our heroes and their families. Don't wait around. Today's the day to get your own and see what all the fuss is about. Buy online at flyingacesspirits.com. That's flyingacesspirits.com. Use the promo code America to get free shipping. Flying Aces, there's an S at the end of Ace, and then there's an S at the beginning of spirits.com, promo code America for free shipping. Let me return to our league of our own and the opportunity that Caitlin Clark presents. The WNBA has no idea what it's doing with Caitlin Clark. Can we all agree on that? They have no idea. It's a hostile league to Caitlin Clark. It's a hostile league to heterosexual women. It's a hostile league to a biblical worldview. We've seen, long before Caitlin Clark, we've seen WNBA players run out of that league because they're heterosexual. They've complained in the media like, woo, this league, it don't like us. I'm heterosexual, and I faced a lot of pressure. If this were going the opposite direction, if there was a league being run that was over the top, hostile towards gays, the LGBTQ crowd, this would be a major story day after day, week after week. It would be in all the news cycles. And look, 20 years ago, yes, you could be homophobic in sports. Now you can't. If you drop the F-bomb anywhere in any of these leagues, you're fined thousands of dollars. You can't, again, what is allowed in the WNBA towards heterosexual women, and this is by design. This is the problem with Caitlin Clark and why they're trying to demonize Caitlin Clark. Go all the way back to Augusta National in 2003 and Martha Burke and what I've told you about that. Their argument was at that time, oh God, if you don't have women in this golf course, they just don't have access to men of power. And I called BS on that in real time. I was like, what do you mean they don't have access? These men have wives to answer to. They have daughters to answer to. They have nieces. They have grandparents. They have their mother to answer to. Women have access to men in power. They don't need to be in our locker room and in our clubs to have access to men in power. But if you hate men, If you hate heterosexual men, if you don't want anything to do with them, and you want to be hugged up with your boo, your female boo, yes, you need to involve yourselves and pretend to be a man and join a man's club. That's what this has always been about. That's why the WNBA tries to mimic the NBA. And it hasn't worked. Women pretending to be men on the basketball court hasn't worked. Caitlin Clark shows up, looks like the girl next door, no tats, shoots the basketball in an exciting way, spreads and shares the basketball in an exciting way, and all of a sudden there's a momentum behind her and the league has relevancy. But the league has never made a dime. Won't make a dime this year, despite the Caitlin Clark effect. The league has been hostile to Caitlin Clark. It's been hostile to Caitlin Clark fans, calling them the biggest problem, and everybody, when these teams are getting eliminated from the playoffs, regular season ending, everybody's got to make a statement. Alyssa Thomas, who's engaged to the other, Dewana Bronner or whatever, her teammate, comes out and makes a statement. Oh, these Indiana Fever fans, there's been nothing like it. That's all BS. It's all BS. Like, oh, there was no trolling. It's been so terrible because Caitlin Clark's there. Brittany Griner, oh, God, what I went through. People calling me the N-word and slurs at games. There's no proof of any of this. What there is plenty of proof of is that the WNBA has been the angriest, bitterest league in the history of sports. Their fan base and their players are angry and bitter and do nothing but whine and complain. I'm going to give you the proof. There is some man who goes by the name of Dolores. He goes by the name of Dolores. Maybe his real name's Micah. I read this, but he goes by the name of Dolores. He's BFF with A'ja Wilson, one of the biggest whiners and criers, the girl that set on preaching white privilege to Kelsey Plum, the alleged best player in the league, the one that they've hyped up. Dolores, this man who runs around pretending to be a woman. Someone on social media busted him out as the biggest troll in the WNBA. He runs around blasting any and everybody that has anything remotely negative to say about A'ja Wilson. A'ja Wilson's BFF found pictures of him hugged up with Don Staley at games. Don Staley calling this man Dolores. Here's a tweet I found of Don Staley hugged up with that man who calls himself Dolores. Happy birthday to whatever the guys, as I said it, you are truly a gift to us. Keep being you and don't let anyone but us tell you otherwise. Love you, Dolores. This is what this league is about. Men pretending to be women, women pretending to be men. This is where the hostility towards Caitlin Clark and her fans is coming from, because Caitlin Clark's fan base is mostly heterosexual. Nope, go back. I want to read some Dolores tweets. This is one of Dolores's tweets, or whatever his name is. You presented this picture to the world willingly, like your forehead not pumped up from your N-word teabagging your ugly ass. You're the epitome of a butt-her-face ass bitch. The herpes above your tits, I would think, are enough, but sitting in bed with your outside clothes is nasty. This is Dolores. This is A'ja Wilson's BFF. Don Staley loves Dolores to death. This is who is the heart of the WNBA culture that is hostile to Caitlin Clark, and they want to frame Caitlin Clark fans and Caitlin Clark as the racist and the problem. Here's another Dolores tweet. So while you keep patting your PUSSY to my pictures, just remember that you're not loved, because if you were, your friends would have told you to keep that shit on Snapchat. I never needed a Twitter chat to talk shit. You can assemble your best fake profiles and still won't hold me, I think is. This is Dolores. Here's another. The weak ass velvet corset and a spaghetti strap underneath, bitch, grow the F up. Don't nobody do that no more, and find a bra, because the way my ass sits and your tits fall is quite embarrassing. Caitlin Clark fans are the problems. This person has been identified by WNBA fans as the trashiest, most classless person on social media, trolling. This is what she's writing to other WNBA players. But they want to say that basically the heterosexual Caitlin Clark fans, they brought this toxicity to the WNBA. No, the league is toxic. Many of the players are toxic. The culture is toxic. Their leader, Don Staley, is toxic. We need a league of our own. We need a league built around Caitlin Clark. It can happen. Let me explain. The collective bargaining agreement for the WNBA is likely going to expire on October 31st, 2025. I believe their players, their union, has a chance to opt out of their CBA November 1st. Is that 22 days from now? Yeah, today's October 9th, 22 days from now. They can opt out of the CBA, which would mean it would end October 31st, 2025. That's next year. This is likely to happen. These WNBA players are irate about how much money they get paid. They all think they should be making LeBron James money. They certainly think, A'ja Wilson's the best player in that league. I think she makes around $225,000. They certainly want to make more money than that. Most people, I've read it everywhere, most people think they're going to opt out, and many people believe there's going to be a work stoppage over this money issue. A work stoppage in a league that hasn't turned a profit in 27 years. This is an opportunity for someone, for us, to build a women's basketball league around Caitlin Clark. Who needs content? Who wants to build a platform that rivals YouTube? Who needs the proper content to drive enough interest so they can have a platform that rivals YouTube? Well, one of the richest men in the world, who's not named Rothschild, Elon Musk. He needs content for Twitter, which he's trying to turn into a rival for YouTube. Caitlin Clark is that content. Women's basketball is that content. What we need is an XX league. See how that works? An XX basketball league on X. See, now you got two X's that equal women, a basketball league that is broadcast on Twitter. Caitlin Clark is that powerful. Elon Musk and the right partners have enough money to pull this off. It would be monumental. Here's why Caitlin Clark and other WNBA players will listen to an Elon Musk. They need leverage in their negotiations with the WNBA. Just for the leverage, they would sit down and meet with Elon Musk and his business partners. just for the leverage that creates. Once they sit down, can Elon Musk and his business partners present a better vision of basketball? Can they present something that makes more economic sense than the woke WNBA? The WNBA is not a business. It's a political tool. This needs to be explained to all of the players that they're sabotaging their own economic future by allowing the WNBA to be a political tool and not a business. So you sit down with Caitlin Clark. You sit down with, yes, Angel Reese. You sit down with Aaliyah Boston. You sit down with Juju Watkins. You sit down with Gino Auriemma. Yes, Gino, the coach of UConn. And you say, hey guys, let's do business. Let's make a big pile of money. We have a rare gift here in Caitlin Clark. We have fans that clearly want to see Caitlin Clark. There's people right now making plans to watch Caitlin Clark play golf in a pro-am. Caitlin Clark is the strongest force in content, in television content, in broadcasting content. Everybody benefits wherever Caitlin Clark shows up. She's going to be the Taylor Swift of sports. We can build a league that isn't hostile to Caitlin Clark, isn't hostile to a fan base that wants to see women behave as women, present themselves as women, and play basketball. We can make gobs and gobs of money rather than being a league that wears vote shirts and takes a knee every time some common criminal disobeys law enforcement and gets smoked. If you want to build your life around taking a knee for every George Floyd drug addict in America, have at it. Stay in the WNBA. Angel Reese, if you want to make $5, $10 million a year playing basketball, join the XX League. Is your life going to be dedicated to making sure that George Floyd never happens again? And trust me, it will happen again as long as there's fentanyl, as long as there's drugs, and as long as there's people that told, hey, the greatest thing you can do is disobey the police. That's a nonstop issue. George Floyd needed drug therapy. If you want to have a league that's built on that, have at it. If you want to have a league that's built on, hey, we got to help Kamala Harris get elected president, have at it. If you want to, why will they listen? I've already told you, they need leverage in their collective bargaining agreement negotiations. These women already, half the WNBA right now is overseas playing in some foreign league right now because they don't make enough money during the WNBA season to take care of themselves at the level they want to for all year. They're already playing in rival leagues. Why not start a rival league? And now, there's two ways to do it. You could have a rival league that operates during the summer up against the WNBA, or you could have a rival league that starts now, right here in America. And so you tell these ladies, I just saw Camila Cardoso, I can't remember what country she was flying off to go play. Maybe it was China, I can't remember. But you think Camila wouldn't say, oh, I don't have to leave the country and I can play basketball and I can get paid to play in the XX League where Caitlin Clark and that league will draw a better audience, more people in the seats than the WNBA, and I don't have to be a tool for politics, and I can play against other women only? It's a I'm going to tell you who's going to do this. Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia or some foreign country is going to, they can see what I can see. Man, there's a lot of momentum behind Caitlin Clark and women's basketball. Adam Silver, Kathy Engelbert, the people running the NBA and the WNBA, they are idiots. They don't know how to maximize this Caitlin Clark gift. They don't know how to take advantage of this moment. Hey, we can do it. No different than, hey, we bought up some golfers for the Live Golf League. Hey, you know what? America and Americans, they're so stupid. We'll go money whip a bunch of these women's basketball players and we'll start a rival league right there in America. That's what's going to happen because American men of great wealth have so little vision and so small balls. We don't do bold things. We don't do things that protect our interest in our way. We play defense. We just try to conserve. We don't build anything. We have a gift here in Caitlin Clark. Again, and I don't know fully where Caitlin Clark stands. She may be a closeted feminist. But I know money talks. I know she grew up in a Catholic family. I know she went to Catholic schools. I know she's done a really good job of staying out of the racial politics and ducking and dodging all the race bait questions that they keep throwing in front of her. I think Caitlin Clark and her parents are smart. I think Angel Reese, all she cares about is money and attention. She'll jump on board. Juju Watkins, she'll jump on board. Paige Beckers, I think she would jump on board. And you take a Gino Auriemma, who, again, never admitted publicly, but he's the gold standard in women's basketball as it relates to coaching. And he's watching Dawn Staley get treated like she's the gold standard in women's basketball. And I don't care what he says publicly. That bothers him. He's a far better coach than Dawn Staley. He's far more accomplished than Dawn Staley. But she's on every commercial across from Coach K because she's black. And because she's gay, or I don't know, I think she's gay. Looks gay to me. Comes across as gay. She running around calling Dolores or some dude named Mike Dolores. You get Gino Auriemma to be the commissioner of the XX League. He's got connections with all those UConn basketball players that are in the WNBA. He's going to be the pull. So when you go to Money Whip, Breanna Stewart, Paige Beckers, these are his players. Several other ones is Alyssa Thomas. Is she a UConn player? I can't remember. But several of these top WNBA players are former UConn players. He's the most respected person in WNBA in women's basketball. I know he's not liked by everybody because he's got a bit of an attitude, but you got to respect the guy. You make him the commissioner of the XX League. And then here's the carrot on top. You give these women a piece of the ownership of the league. Now they've made real history. Now they've done something men have never done. Now they can run around and beat their chest and say, hey, Patrick Mahomes, LeBron James, Michael Jordan, these guys, while playing, never had an ownership stake in the league. We did that. And then once you get them focused on, hey, we're just here to play basketball. We're not here to make some big, bold political statement for Kamala Harris or any of this other garbage. We're just going to ball. and we're going to ball against other XX people. Fans are going to come. Fans are going to love it. Our merchandise is going to sell. We're going to turn into a league that rivals the NBA. I'm telling you, it will happen. Here's why. This is why this is such an incredible opportunity for some American businessmen to take advantage of. Look at the NBA. Who are their 5 biggest stars? Who are their 5 best players? Luka Doncic, Nikola Jokic, Giannis Antetokounmpo, Joel Embiid, and the Shea SGA. None of these guys, they're not from America. The NBA doesn't have American stars. LeBron James is on his way out. He's making a fool of himself with Bronny James right now and tarnishing his own legacy and image. He's too polarizing. He's not beloved. And he's at the end of his deal. The best 5 players in the NBA, they're all foreigners. Maybe this Cooper Flagg kid at Duke will be the difference. But virtually all of the stars in the WNBA, they're all Americans. Americans love to watch American athletes. Guess who has the most dominant athletic team in all of Olympic sports? They have the kind of dominance that men used to have. Go back to 1992 and the Dream Team. That's how dominant American basketball was. No one could compete with the American stars in basketball. Now we struggle to win gold medals. It's a dogfight. Go to the women's game. Who's the most dominant? Who's won 8, 9 gold medals in a row? Who basically has no competition? The U.S. women's basketball team. Everything has flipped. If you want to sell tickets, you want to sell TV ratings, it's the all-American experience. That's why Caitlin Clark is the biggest star in American TV right now. She's bigger than any of the men. She's bigger than LeBron James. She's bigger than Steph Curry. I'm talking about right now. And if she were ever marketed properly, again, take Nike. They're trying to make A'ja Wilson what Caitlin Clark actually is. If the right people get in business with Caitlin Clark, she's Michael Jackson. She's Thriller. We will show up and watch. As great as her rookie season was this year, and it was great, it was fun to watch, but she didn't knock down logo threes the way, or just three-pointers in general, the way she can. She was exciting, she was fun, it's a great story, but she can play even better. Her ceiling is so much higher than what she showed as a television draw and as an on-court performer. You grab up a handful of these other women that I've named, and trust me, all the other women are going to follow. You just money whip a hand. I'm telling you, it's Caitlin Clark, it's Juju Watkins, it's Angel Reese. Those are the 3 most important. Then I'd want Paige Becker and Breanna Stewart. I would love to get A'ja Wilson, but I think she's so far in that cult that, money may not move her. Doing proper business may not move her. That's the whole thing that is a tiny bit of a concern, is that these women are so emotional, and I'm just sorry to say it, some of them are so illogical that you're reluctant to get in business with them. Because, again, you may go in there and explain, like, hey, ladies, we're going to take the equality shirts off. We're going to take the vote T-shirts off. we're just going to play basketball. Some of them, here's the pot of gold that's going to await you for just playing basketball. You want to do politics, do it outside our arena, do it someplace else, but not here in the arena. We're just going to play basketball. There will be no Black Lives Matter moments. We're going to all come out and stand for the national anthem. Some of them may be so illogical and emotional. 'Cause we see it in the men as well. And I'm just, we keep it real here. It's this whole black culture thing they bought into. It's a whole, hey, do whatever's emotional and whatever feels good, rather than what makes the most business sense. If LeBron James had control of himself emotionally, if LeBron James had any logic at all, particularly when he was younger and even today, he wouldn't have all those tattoos all over his body. It hurts him in marketing. And I know we've normalized tattoos, but it has. There's a reason why he's never sniffed Michael Jordan's popularity and ability to sell Nike shoes. Years ago, this isn't some new take by me, but years ago, I talked to the agents who originally represented LeBron James, black dudes. They were like, man, if we could have just got him not to tat himself all up, he took money off the table. And trust me, in LeBron's mind, how did I take money off the table? I'm a billionaire, I'm blah, 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 blah. You might be worth $5 billion right now. You'd certainly be a lot, compared to Michael Jordan in shoe sales, you're not in the same galaxy. And you could have been. And so there's this, but again, I gotta fit in with the culture, the black culture, and I gotta be tatted up, and I gotta look like a rapper. And so there are so many of our young people that have had their minds poisoned with this, I gotta be black, rather than I need to be Christian, or I need to be whoever someone my parents could be proud of. I gotta be American. There are so many people that are caught up in what Hollywood and the music industry has defined as blackness, that they won't do proper business. They're not business people. They're puppets and clowns for their paymasters. And so they dress up for a minstrel show and wrap themselves in gold chains and tattoos so they can look like 2 Chainz or Tupac or Biggie Smalls. They're that kind of stupid. They don't want to dress up and look like Elon Musk or some of these other billionaires. And so that is the concern. Can these women, black women in particular, just no different than black men, can they understand a logical argument to just do business? And then to take your money and invest in yourself, in your family, in your community? Or would they prefer to, remain political tools for the left and for the WNBA, get less money, but have the enjoyment of tweeting out complaints, of painting themselves as victims? That's more important to many of them. Painting themselves as victims and being popular over Twitter and making sure that they're black enough. All of that's more important than doing proper business. That's the fly in the ointment that could prevent people from doing the right things. But I'm not sure. In this moment, there is a unique and rare opportunity. And I know that people from Saudi Arabia and other foreign, they can see this opportunity. If you can see it in golf, you can definitely see it here. You have a superstar athlete who is hated and mistreated in the league that she is making relevant and making money. Nike won't properly promote her. The league won't properly promote her. They have a collective bargaining agreement coming up that they need leverage in. They're underpaid salary-wise. There's a real opportunity here for someone to go make the case, we need a league of our own. And Elon Musk needs content for Twitter. And the man's got a lot of money, and he's trying to protect free speech, and he could understand what an XX league could mean for his platform and for free speech. It's a unique opportunity. Someone has to take advantage of it. Or, and trust me, it's not like the NBA or WNBA is just going to roll over. They've wasted millions upon millions of dollars trying to promote, the alphabet mafia agenda. And they'll double down. But I'm telling you, you need 5 or 6 of these players. The rest will follow. It's been done before. The American Football League was a rival to the NFL. And 4, 5, 6 of those teams got swallowed up into the NFL. And those got Lamar Hunt and Al Davis went down in history. I think a rival league would actually crush the WNBA, and the WNBA would eventually have to make a deal with the XX League. It's so perfectly timed. It's such an incredible opportunity. I'm telling you, I've gone down the list of like, okay, what cities would you set up teams in for the XX League? Obviously, you got to have, I guess, Los Angeles and New York and Chicago, 3 major cities. But I'm saying it's the middle of the country is where this league could really have impact. Columbus, Ohio, Indianapolis, Kansas City, Denver, Nashville, Tennessee, where I can go to the games. Austin, Dallas, Texas, that area, Charlotte, North Carolina, New Orleans, Ann Arbor, Michigan. That's where I would put team. I wouldn't put one in Detroit. And I love Detroit, but holy cow, Detroit just ain't safe enough. Put them in Ann Arbor. And I know that Ann Arbor's a liberal hotbed, but I'd put them, and so is Detroit. But anyway, I'm telling you, this is the right idea. And it's the right time for this idea. Many of you, I can't wait for Shemeka to tell me what you guys are saying in the chat. Do I sound crazy? I'm not crazy. Anytime someone of Elon Musk's wealth and boldness needs content, he's dead set on rivaling YouTube, he has to listen to this idea. Any guy, a Clark Hunt, a Robert Kraft, guys that started the MLS, Major League Soccer, they got to see this opportunity. You have the biggest star in sports being mismanaged by a league and by a shoe company, and you could come in and make a better pitch and offer her and a handful of other women a tiny bit of ownership in the league, let them beat their chest over that, and you can disrupt this whole thing. And now you have a sports league that would stand for the national anthem, get out of the Marxist propaganda machine, and just play ball and hammer the point. Let's put a bow on all of this. Hammer the point that men and women both need spaces of their own. You want to talk about disrupting and putting out the counter message to what's been going on the last 50, 60 years? Oh, men and women, we're all the same and we don't need different spaces.
and women can be men, and women, we got to let them in this club and that club, and we got to destroy Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts, and we just got to make everything one, and everybody's in the same locker room, and men that want to dress up as women and shake their balls in front of little kids. We can disrupt all of that. Men and women need separate spaces. The CIS rights movement is critical to saving America and the globe. We look like idiots. I'm gonna say something that'll probably get me in trouble. But if I was some Arab or Muslim country and I looked across at America, I was like, look at these people. They think men can get pregnant. They got people on their Supreme Court that can't tell you what a woman is. They're marrying two men to each other and treating them like a nuclear family. They're bending over backwards for the alphabet mafia and making, you got to call a man with two balls and a bat. You got to call him a woman's name. They're promoting transgender people to high public office. Assistant health and human, whatever that is. If I were them, I would look across. Those people have reprobate minds. They're insane. I want nothing to do with them. I don't want their influence anywhere near my country. I don't blame them for looking at us with disgust. Look at the insanity that we're promoting. We're letting men compete with girls in sports, shower with girls. We look crazy. This is such a fundamental, easy to understand issue that has to be taken off the table if we actually want peace, if we actually want people to look at us as a sane country and as a force for good. You can talk about, America's a force for good. How? If Obama's telling Africa, you better get on board with this same-sex marriage, how are we a force for good? If the spread of our way of life is, hey, there's no difference between men and women, and men can get pregnant, and Pete Buttigieg can hop in bed after they done paid some woman to have a baby, if he can hop in bed with another man and take a picture and say, look what we just did. This is an insane country. We've been given over to a reprobate mind, and we got to snap out of it. And I know I sound crazy, but Caitlin Clark can help us snap out of it. Elon Musk and an XX basketball league, and people standing for cis rights. Like, hey, we need separate spaces. Nothing wrong with a men's and women's bathroom. It's actually what's right. All right. I think that's all I want to say on that. We'll bring Steve Kim on. We'll bring Butter into the conversation. We'll talk about some other sports stuff. Before I do that, though, I want to talk to you guys that are looking for alternative currency like I am and like everyone with a brain is. For the first time in human history, you can spend physical gold on small transactions such as a smoothie while using the same type of money for large transactions such as a home renovation, what I'm going through. You can do this thanks to Alpine Gold. It's a precious metal IRA. Alpine Gold offers gold leases that pay you in gold. Everyone is eligible to start with returns of up to 3.5% average per year. The Goldback is the world's first physical interchangeable gold money that is designed to accommodate even small transactions. Goldbacks do not need someone else's approval to spend, do not specify where they can be spent or what they can be spent on, and the Goldbacks are anonymous. to learn more about Goldbacks and Alpine Gold. Visit alpinegold.com. Use the promo code FEARLESS to receive free shipping on orders of more than $200. That's alpinegold.com and the promo code FEARLESS. Steve Kim, Korean Cosell, X. Don't miss a second of Fearless. We'll be right back, but check out this clip from an earlier show.
What are the greatest flops in the history of America? I got a little bias here. You guys know I got a tiny bias. I'm going to put at the top of my list 2011 LeBron James and the Miami Heat getting beat by the Dallas Mavericks with LeBron melting down. The Titanic, that would have to be considered an incredible flop. The greatest luxury liner ever built that fell to the bottom of the ocean on its first voyage. Nick Saban in the NFL. That's got to be considered a flop. Now, look, and so I don't want you to think I'm beating up on Aaron Rodgers here and that I dislike Aaron Rodgers. Nick Saban flopped. He's still one of the, greatest coaches, one of the greatest sports figures of all time, but his NFL career was a flop. Anybody remember New Coke? Butter, you remember New Coke? Yeah, New
Briefly.
Coke. Yeah, that flopped big time. And then, if I were being honest, in terms of things that have disappointed me the most in my life, this actually would be number one on the list. Because no one loves The Godfather 1 and 2 more than me. Godfather 3 was a flop.
Yeah, 모두 다 빨리 박수 쳐 기다리지 말고 서둘러 Reason that I'm back is to feed you raps and I see that you are 배불러 So fly
All right, welcome back. I'm going to give you guys a little insight into behind the scenes on Fearless. Steve Kim is basically our version of Aaron Rodgers. He's a bit of a diva. And, we said, hey, we're coming to you, Steve. Steve, I'm not ready yet. I've got to get my makeup on. I got to get everything on. He's a bit of a diva. But we put up with him because he's so talented, Butter.
He's got the talent, so you got to let it ride sometimes.
Yeah, you got it. Butter, what do you think of my idea about an XX league?
I like it.
You do?
I like it. She turned down a good amount. I think she turned down $10 million with your boy Ice Cube.
$5 million.
Big
$5 million with Ice Cube.
$10 million over 2 years.
Yeah.
Ownership, they had a lot of that same stuff in there. So it's like I feel like what you're doing would resemble the game more.
Yeah, she's 3-on-3. She doesn't know how that, and playing against men, she don't want no parts of that. This league, 5-on-5, playing against other women, she gets part of ownership. She's not dealing with, all the hostility. It's not some political league where she's getting asked all these questions about politics. I'm telling you, they could establish a completely different culture with the XX League, and it's necessary. It's really, really needed. And I honestly think she would listen. If Elon Musk and a couple other power players, I bring Clark Hunt into it because she's a big Kansas City Chiefs fan. She's from Iowa. A lot of people from Iowa are Chiefs fans. If Elon Musk and someone like Clark Hunt sat down in front of Caitlin Clark, and particularly Clark Hunt, because his dad's history with starting the AFL, his dad and Clark's history with being involved at the beginning of Major League Soccer, they could paint a picture of like, no, we can build something real around you and a handful of these other women. And the other thing I really believe is just like Angel Reese would listen to this pitch. Mm-hmm. Angel Reese would, as much as she dislikes Caitlin Clark, if someone's sitting there saying, hey, you can get a little piece of ownership, we're going to pay you more, and we're going to build this league. You can go down in history as this history-making woman that helped athletes get a piece of ownership of a league. I think an Angel Reese would I think all these women would listen. But can they control their emotions and take the blowback and heat that the corporate machine would put against them.
Well, you brought up Live Golf. You know, I mean, they came in and took something with years and years of incredible tradition. And, you know, one of the allures of PGA is the tradition and why some of those folks struggled to move over to Live. The money talked, and a lot of them did, but the NBA, or the WNBA doesn't carry that much tradition in my mind that would prevent some of these players from starting something.
No. I believe our Aaron Rodgers is ready. Steve, Steve, are you ready to go? Steve, or
Finally.
you know, finally. He could get either one of us fired, Butter, so be very careful.
I'm going to walk lightly.
Yeah. Steve, what did you think of my idea about Caitlin Clark and an XX league and women starting a league of their own?
Well, first of all, good morning to everybody. But I want to clear the air here. I was told to be ready at 15 past the hour. And the fact that Whitlock wasn't just on time, but actually early, I nearly fainted. I was kind of like Red Fox having the big one, okay? And I've actually been backstage for 5 minutes. So I want to let the people know that for some reason Whitlock was on white people time today. Maybe it's keeping in theme with Caitlin Clark. He decided to be punctual for once. He was fearlessly punctual. But, okay, so Jason, to your idea, I don't think it's the worst idea you've had. And it got me to thinking, remember the movie A League of Their Own? Where during World War II, many of the men were drafted into that conflict overseas, and Major League Baseball was stripped away. And there was a women's professional baseball league. It actually had a pretty good run. Skill level was high. And what I've read and what I gathered from that movie was that there was an emphasis on the women actually looking very feminine. Now, again, this is a different time and place in American culture and society, but it played well. Let's leave the elephant out the room here. They weren't all tatted up. They all looked very natural. They looked very nice. They acted very feminine. And the skill level was very good. And there was a code of conduct that existed for every player and team. So I'm kind of thinking about this going, well, okay, maybe that's one thing that you could work on with this new league. But you fast forward now to the year of 2024, Jason, I've told you this before and people don't believe me, and I'm absolutely serious. When I watch women's softball at the Division I level, and they play it all over the place on the various platforms, especially during the World Series when they start paring down to the final teams, most of the women, now they wear modern day uniforms, but they look very attractive, very nice, very feminine, and the skill level is good. It's actually an entertaining watch when it's not football season. It can be done. I think a lot of the problems that the WNBA has had is twofold. Number one is the aesthetics. The people that play the game, I don't think a lot of middle America will ever really be in sync with it. And number two, they have horrific, vile attitudes.
No question, and that's what the attitudes are a big part. I think over the course of time, you could move the league less tats, because I would make that part of, you get some kind of contract bonus if you didn't have any tattoos. I'm just telling you, it's a TV show, man, and what you look like on a TV show matters. They're not gonna do the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air if Will Smith has tats all over his face and everywhere. And so it is, that aesthetic matters, and I would put in bonuses. And so girls growing up in high school and in college would know, oh, if I come to the WNBA with no tats, I get a little pay bump over the people with tats. I would do it. And I would, the people who want to go, well, that's racist. Are we really now going to say the tats are, and I guess we would. Well, that's a big part of Black American culture. Don't you know Kunta Kinte had tats on him? And this is, anyway, they come up with something, but I would just stand my ground and say, hey, that's not what we're doing. We're going to present ourselves in a certain way. It's not about your sexuality. I don't care who you marry, date, whatever, but we're not talking about it here. We're talking about basketball. I'm telling you, I think this thing could work. Steve, one thing I didn't bring up, that I kind of intended to, but because I wanted to extend it into our conversation. There's now a women's hockey coach in the NHL. Jessica Campbell, she's 32 years old. She's kind of attractive, and she's a woman. She's a coach in the National Hockey League. Let's play this clip from the ESPN broadcast about Seattle's female coach.
Full-time assistant coach in the NHL, and I think head coach Dan Bylsma said it best. While it is monumental to see a woman behind the bench in the NHL, he was just trying to hire the best coach, and that was Jessica. She started playing college hockey at Cornell before winning multiple medals in international play with Team Canada. She worked her way up as a coach, eventually landing in
Again, I know women play hockey. This woman's 32. And she's 32. She's in the age range of the NHL players. She's attractive. I'm just keeping it real because that's what we do on this show. Man, I would hate to be the HR department for Seattle. There's going to be some issues coming down the pike here. A bunch of athletes, attractive coach, they got to work closely with. I just can't see this not ending poorly and this whole thing, oh, they just hired the best coach. 32-year-old woman was the best candidate to be an assistant coach in the National Hockey League. Miss me with that. Your thoughts?
Jason, we had this discussion a couple of years ago over something very similar towards this dynamic. Can we be honest about it? At the highest levels of professional sports, okay, there is no man that wants to be coached by any woman. Now, they're going to be forced to say, yeah, we respect her knowledge. She played and she helps us out. We don't really care. But in the deepest recesses of anybody's mind, if you're an elite world-class athlete, which anybody is at this level, they've got to be thinking to myself, I want to be coached by a man. I would much rather be screamed at, critiqued, and criticized. And I think the last time we talked about this, it was over basketball. And then again, if someone got in my face, a lot of these guys, their reaction would be under their breath, I'm going to dust this line off again. Bish, please. I mean, no one's going to want to hear it. I'm just telling you, there is a reality towards this, that if you're going to be screamed at, if you're going to have a finger pointed in your direction, you're going to be disciplined. At that level of athletics, men want to be disciplined by other men. It will just come off differently from a woman. That's the reality. It's not politically correct, but I believe it's dead on honest.
I think there's something even more dangerous here in terms of the athletes and the amount of money they're making, but also when you inject a woman into this position, they're going to hop on board with it because, like, hey, this is the direction the NHL is going. It's, you know, I'm not going to rock the boat. I want my money. But what they're also privately going to say is like, hey, man, this isn't really about competition. We're now part of some social experiment. It's just we're WWE. This is just a show. This isn't really competition. They can't be serious. They've got this 32-year-old hot blonde coaching me. This is a television show. It's not a competition. I think it harms the integrity of the game, and it makes the players more cynical about the actual sport they're competing in.
Jason, here's the interesting part. And I think the last time we talked about this, it was about basketball and how you said, we made the point that many of the players were raised by single mothers. And it came down to the furthering of the feminization of the American culture and the athletic world. Well, I'm just going to make an assumption that a lot of those hockey players are probably European. They may have actually grown up in a traditional two-parent household. I still think of hockey as being largely a white sport with a lot of guys from different parts of the world where none of this DEI stuff is actually going on. I actually wonder how these guys are going to take to quote unquote female leadership, given that their part of the world looks at this stuff much differently than America.
The DEI stuff is global. But as it relates to the athletes inside their homes that play hockey, you're right. This is not the construct that they grew up with their parents inside their home. Hockey is a two-parent sport, a lot of travel involved. I'm talking about for American athletes, a lot of travel involved. There's some expense to hockey. It's not as subsidized as football in the earlier years. And you're right, I do think most of these white athletes, I would say 65, 70% of them, maybe even higher, 75% are from a two-parent household structure that probably is more patriarchal than matriarchal. And so, yeah, and that's again why I go to, it's just gonna enhance the cynicism of like, this whole thing's a joke, and we're just here to make money. And maybe it's always been that way, maybe, but it's like, man, this is just a reality TV show, and I don't think that's good for the game. And I think it's going to lead to a lot of mischief in terms of, because there won't be the real respect for this woman, and then it'll be about, I wonder if I can get in her pants. And I'm not saying with all these guys, but I've been in Steve.
Oh, come on, Jason. That's what road trips are for. Come on. They have plenty of options.
There's a proximity deal that goes on in sports. I'm going to just tell you, here's what happens in training camp. And I'm doing this based off memory, but I'm just telling you what happens in training camp. And just even as a journalist, because like the Chiefs used to do training camp in Wisconsin, River Falls, Wisconsin, and so even for the journalist traveling away, it's like whatever woman is there during training camp, let's say if in real life she's a 6, during training camp, she's an 8.5, damn near a 9. She looks like Brooke Shields for you old school people, and for younger people, she looks like, who's the hottest girl now? I know. Lainey Wilson, is she hot?
Yeah, we'll call her hot.
Yeah, I will, for sure. But that's what they all look like. And so I can remember you go to training camp at Ball State, and the female trainers turned into the most attractive people on planet Earth. And then as soon as school started, the first day of school, perspective and context came in, and it's like, and you quit messing with them. You quit flirting with them and all that, because like, the real women have showed up. That woman in that environment will be under attack. And guys will be, and she's a woman. She may be executing a few of her own attacks. It just is what it is. That's why we need separate spaces and separate environments. I want to play a clip from Jessica Campbell on being the first female NHL coach. She's made history. Oh, this is so awesome. Play the clip.
Tell me about what it's been like to know that you have broken barriers as the NHL's first female all-time, full-time assistant coach. What is it like for you to know that?
Yeah, it's honestly, it's special to hear, because I'm so focused on just being a coach every day, and I lace up my skates the same way as everybody else, but it's just, I'm different right now in this space, and I'm new to it, so I think experiencing just the magnitude for what it feels like for everyone who's watching and really behind this and seeing it, that's when it really brings a lot of meaning to me, because I just love what I do. I'm extremely passionate about coaching, and obviously I'm so proud to be a Seattle Kraken and to get to be here now and living out my goals, and my ultimate dream is now realized. But just to know that what I'm doing is part of really a bigger thing, and it's so much bigger than myself and what I do every day, to know that somebody else is hopefully going to have it easier, or the door might be held open for another woman or someone to come into this space that is having the challenges to get there. So it means so much, and I can't even really put words to just the magnitude of really the weight that I get to carry this torch so proudly.
I don't even want to respond to that. I just, this whole glass ceiling, breaking barriers.
Can I?
Go ahead, Steve. Go ahead. I mean, it's your show. Go ahead.
Remember how silly we used to think that movie was? I think it was with Goldie Hawn. Remember when she took over for a high school football team? They needed a coach, and this dainty white woman was going to lead this inner city
Wildcats,
school.
maybe, or what was it?
Yeah, Wildcats. And she led this inner city school, big black guys, all athletic. They actually looked like they were pretty good. And she rallied the troops, and she became female Vince Lombardi. I mean, never did I realize as a young child of the 80s that this would become our reality in the 2020s. And, look, I'm going to say something again. I know people are going to be upset, but this is what we do here at Fearless. I believe that team will lead the league, maybe lead the universe in detached retinas from players rolling their eyes, having to take direction from her. That's just my prediction right there, Kim Stradamus. I said it, okay? Jeez.
I can't believe I pulled Wildcats out of my rear end. And
Good job.
Did you know that a young 24-year-old Wesley Snipes was in the movie Wildcats? Did you know that?
It was actually a pretty decent cast, believe it or not. Some of the players.
Yeah, Woody Harrelson was in that as well.
He was the token. He was a token white guy on that team.
Yeah. All right. So, Steve, before I move on, because I want to talk a little bit about Aaron Rodgers and Bronny James, but I want to talk to you guys about First Liberty. Don't kid yourself. The future of the Supreme Court is on the ballot. These radical leftists want to eliminate the court's conservative majority by packing the Supreme Court with their own hand-picked justices to get the outcomes they want. At First Liberty, they call this assault on the court what it really is, a Supreme Court coup. As the 2024 election approaches, we need to do three things. Find out where each of your candidates stand on the radical issue of packing and purging the court. Share what you learned with everyone. Do your civic duty and vote. The future of the court, of preserving it as an independent judiciary, is literally in your hands. If we lose the court, we will lose the country. Go to SupremeCoop, COUP.com/Jason. That's SupremeCoop.com/Jason to learn how you can help stop the radical left's takeover of the Supreme Court. Steve, Aaron Rodgers, the Jets situation continues to spin out. We get more and more reporting and theories on what happened here. There's even speculation that Robert Salah wore a Lebanon patch, and Woody Johnson being upset about that, and that's what got him fired. I don't know. It's just wild speculation. Aaron Rodgers is saying he's shocked, didn't know it was going to happen, showed up to work. He had nothing to do with it. A theory that I halfway buy is I think we have a clip of Eric if he lost that game and the team played poorly over in London. Woody Johnson's been an ambassador to Europe and London. Let's play Eric Mangini.
Yeah, this is an absolute must-win, and here's why. Woody Johnson, the 66th ambassador to the UK. All of his buddies are going to be over there. And after the game, when he's eating tea and crumpets, he's going to be talking about his team 100%. And how successful they are. Now, not only that, you've got the former first-round draft pick of the New York Jets playing against you and playing really well, and you've got a 40-year-old quarterback. And then for Aaron Rodgers, if he wants to be able to go and talk to Woody about Davante Adams, you better go do some good things and make him happy. Ooh. You win the game, you walk in after to the box, you meet all of his friends. Hey, what about Davante, Woody? Sounds like a good idea.
What if he does poorly? Like, man, we need Davante. You don't think it'll play?
No, I think Woody's going to be pissed off and not
what it takes. Someone who wants to follow that.
I like that. Nick, go ahead.
Mangini, former Jets head coach. What do you think happened here? What's your best theory on why Salah got fired?
That's an interesting theory by Mangini, but again, like as Woody Johnson's cronies don't know that the Jets have been a bad franchise. I mean, they haven't won anything since what, Super Bowl III? That was in 1969. I believe it was that season. It's not a secret. The Jets are not a great franchise. They have not won a world championship in about, what, 45, 50 years. So I don't know if I completely buy that one. The one that I heard was that Salah was thinking about axing Hackett. So in turn, Aaron Rodgers said, oh, no. We're going to trump that move by getting rid of you. And you would be better at this than I would. Game of Thrones. I don't know who would be Jon Snow. I don't know who'd be Stark. I don't know if this would be the Red Wedding. I'd have to kind of put that together. Again, you're more well-versed than I am at that. That's the theory that I look at, that this became a power play between a head coach that was on thin ice and a quarterback that was starting to really feel the pressure and, quite frankly, needed Hackett to at least feel comfortable in that current situation.
There's another theory out there that, like, hey, Woody Johnson really didn't hire Robert Salah. And so he was never fully on board. Now, given an excuse, he just took it and ran with it. He thinks he's assembled a super talented team, a Super Bowl worthy team. He's sitting there going, oh, we're 2-3. And it's a panic move. It's a bad organizational move. I'm not even sure, and I hear a lot of people talk about, Robert Salah like he was this bad coach. I'm not sure. How do we know? It's like the point you made yesterday. They had to go with Zach Wilson all last year. Who was going to win with that? And now they come into this season and Aaron Rodgers just looks off. How about this as a theory? Because if Aaron Rodgers starts playing well, I'm going to ask myself, was he playing poorly on purpose so they could get rid of Robert Salah?
Wait a minute. You're accusing Aaron Rodgers of sandbagging it.
No.
So say, hey, here's what we're going to do, guys. We're going to give up the first month and a half, and I'm going to throw one-hoppers all over the place. I'm going to dribble the ball there like Isaiah Thomas, so I can get my coach in there, and then I'll start balling. No, Jay, no. Can't go with that one. Can't go with that one.
Listen,
no.
He's not telling anybody that. It just might be what he did. I've never seen Aaron Rodgers throw the ball this poorly, man. He's one of the most accurate quarterbacks in the history of football, and now he can't put – he couldn't – he used to be able to throw it on a dime. Now he can't throw it on a silver dollar. I don't get it. Does it go that quick?
Footwork. He's just off a little. It's coming back. Just a little off.
Again.
Steve, go ahead.
Coach, look, Whitlock and Butters, we've seen point shaving. I've never seen coach shaving. Let's see. I just have a sense that it's an offensive line that needs to come together. And again, Aaron Rodgers played 3 plays last year. It's still going to take a little time for everything there to get together. Now, again, I personally was surprised. I did not agree with the coach getting blown out at this point. They're only 2-3. They're not 0-5. But at the same time, his overall record was 20-36. So it's not like they got rid of Weeb Eubank here.
I want to move on to Bronny James. And I'm shocked at the story that ESPN did. ESPN trying to hunt down its credibility. Wow. They put out an article that trashed Bronny James, a bunch of unnamed sources around the NBA just taking major pot shots. Let me read a couple here from this ESPN story. The expectations for Bronny by the fan base and by LeBron and Rich Paul are not commiserate with the reality of his game, one Eastern Conference executive told ESPN. If they had any real idea of how far away Bronny is, they just would not have done this. Here's another one. You're set up for failure. One Eastern Conference scout who has evaluated Bronny for years said, it's like, what's the expectation here? Here's another one. He should have stayed in school, one Western Conference executive said. No doubt about it. Finally, for this whole thing to have even made it this far is surreal, another Western Conference executive said. Analytically, if you just had the numbers on a page and had no name attached to it, he doesn't project in any way, shape, or form to be an NBA player. His measurables don't project as an NBA player. There's literally nothing about him on paper, if no name is attached to it, that makes this make sense. Wow. Are you shocked that ESPN published this? And how irate is LeBron James?
Well, outside of that, he's a real blue chip prospect. But Jason, what is more stunning to you in the last 4 or 5 days? This story from ESPN, which was very well done. I believe the author's name is Baxter Holmes. Thumbs up to him. Well researched, put some time in. I read it earlier this morning, and my eyes turned around reading some of the quotes. Or 60 Minutes grilling old Cam Chameleon Harris. What is going on with the mainstream media? It's almost like they're doing their jobs. But Jason, this whole situation, none of what I read was all that surprising. It just confirmed what we thought. He should have been a 4-year player that developed his game and actually put up some production at the Division I level, whether that's at USC or another program. But it also points out to me, as a Laker fan in recess till someone is gone, that this is no longer a serious organization. Jason, when the late, great Jerry West was operating our player personnel and draft, the one thing that I looked forward to, even in years when they won championships, they'd have the last pick in the first round or something into like the mid to late 20s. I always looked forward to Jerry West finding somebody that was at least serviceable or would be very good. AC Green, Vlade Divac, guys of that nature, Nick Van Exel. And every once in a while, yeah, we got a guy like Billy Thompson or David Rivers, guys of the Earl Jones. But you always felt like, you know what, we're a serious organization. We're doing things that are best for the team and the franchise. This is all about an agenda of clutch sports and a certain shooting guard from Akron, Ohio. That's all this is.
I'm going to go even bigger picture, though, Steve, and connect it to the women's coach in the National Hockey League. They're turning sports into real world. And Bronny's just puck. And wasn't that from San
Seattle or San Francisco? San Francisco.
Yeah, San Francisco.
Wow.
Yeah. Oh, you don't remember?
I remember Puck. It's a good.
Yeah.
I'm anxious to hear this.
Well, again, he's just Puck, and again, they would place people on that Real World show for conflict and for storylines. None of it was it. What year was it that there was a black dude? And did he pull the pants down of a black girl?
That was the original series.
Season 1 was in New York.
Yeah, that
season
was New
1
York,
was in New York.
I think that's.
I think it was season 2 in Los Angeles. I think her name was Angie, and didn't she date Kenny Anderson?
They got married.
Man, did they get married?
Yeah, and Eric ended up becoming a writer of note. He actually had a pretty good byline for a while. He put in some work.
Huh. Well, anyway.
And there was also that rapper. The black female rapper was on that cast.
That is what's going on in professional sports. It's just real world. Yeah, season 2 here. It's just a reality show. And hey, we're gonna place LeBron's son on the team and have that storyline. And the Golden State Warriors, we thought about drafting, but out of respect for LeBron, we didn't draft Bronny. It's all make-believe, man. They're undermining the credibility of sports with this stuff. People around the league can see it for what it is. The players are making so much money. You wonder why they don't care about the games? Because the teams and the television networks, they don't care about the games. No one cares about the games other than the fans. And at some point, the fans are going to realize, man, these guys don't care. Why should I care?
Jason, so about Pucky James, That's actually really good because I was stunned to read that there's like a whole camera crew surrounding his every move. You know, the last thing you'd want as a teammate is a bunch of cameras. I mean, these guys already are invaded, they believe, by the media. They want their privacy. But the last thing I want to do is not be able to have a conversation with one of my teammates, no matter who it is, because there's 5 cameras hovering around me. But I want to make a point about Puck. The thing that I remember about that weirdo was he would never use utensils, and that was disgusting the way he'd use his fingers. But Puck ended up getting thrown out of the house. That's the difference. Bronny is here to stay. They're not throwing him out of the real world house. Keep that in mind, Jason.
Okay, I think it's Tammy. I'm just Tammy. I called her Angie.
You're really on this real world.
Tammy. Yeah, I am. Man, she's 54 now, but she was the one. Let me see. No, Real World. Yeah, she was in Real World Los Angeles. She first gained fame on Real World Los Angeles after making appearances. Blah blah blah. Yeah, she was on Basketball Wives.
Oh, so Jason,
this picture on Wikipedia is not flattering. But go ahead.
Let me correct myself then. Season 1 is when that black writer Eric got into it with that white girl for Alabama, and it became like a racial thing. And they got in each other's face. And there was also another issue where the white girl from Alabama, who was probably the best looking girl, said to the black lady rapper, are you a drug dealer? And that became an issue. Yeah, I can't lie, folks. I actually watched the first couple seasons of The Real World. Then they went to England, and I said, okay, I'm out.
Real World, and I'm trying to think of the name of the black dude that was the problem, and maybe he got kicked out of the house too. But Real World just kind of set us up for all of this, for what we're seeing now.
Jason.
Yeah, and he also got into, I think the black dude called Beth racist. They had that. Was it David? David, he's a stand-up comedian. Yeah.
And Jason, there was also a guy, I think his name was Eric Neese, whose father was an NBA referee. There was also that guy who was in one of the first 2 seasons. I can't believe we went down this rabbit hole. I'll be honest with you.
Anyway, Steve, I think that's all I got for you. We've gone down the real world rabbit hole. We've taken a dump on. Are you old enough to remember the real world,
guys,
brother?
You've been hanging me here. I just met John Brennan and became friends with him, the big, tall, white guy on season 1 of The Real World. I can't wait.
He's on season 2.
See, I can't wait.
He's on season 2.
I'm going to bring him in just to make you happy, Jason.
Bring him
really?
in.
Yeah. He lives here in Nashville now, guys. I feel like I'm part of this.
He's from Owensboro, Kentucky.
Yeah, he's a nice guy.
He's in season 2, so he could talk all about.
He could give you guys everything you want.
Oh my God! Oh, John, is he still a Christian?
Yes.
Yeah, because he was a devout anti-abortion Christian.
He's a music artist. He's trying to make it in country music.
Oh.
So good tie-in for your music show getting ready to start.
There we go. All right, we'll look into that. All right, we're gonna bring Shemeka Michelle in. See what you guys had going on in the chat. What did you think of my idea? Caitlin Clark, a league of her own. Feel sorry for Bronny James. What do you think about my Puck analogy? Shemeka Michelle, what you guys had to say in the chat. Next. Welcome to Extra Fearless with Jason Whitlock. I am Jason Whitlock, your host. Oh my God, Lyndon Johnson, his thoughts are so disgusting. I can't believe you would engage with him. The celebration for being a slut have never been greater. Why do you choose Taylor Swift, and why do you pick up a role as, let me help my woman undress on stage in front of an audience?
When I look at people like Sexy Red or Cardi B that we prop up, now I see that the white community as well is just as fried.
It does look to me like he made some eye contact with her and then just decided, nah, let me move on. The BET Awards seems like a psyop at this point. It's just Democratic brainwashing. Get in there and fight for all the things. Steve, that's it for you. I'm done. All right, welcome back. Shemeka, Michelle, what's popping in the chats? Did anyone in the chat say anything clever, smart, funny, whatever? What's cracking?
Yes, Jason, I think I'm going to have to do you like Steve Kim and let you know when you can talk on your own show. So I got a few things that I need to cover, okay? First, I need to tell Brian Berner, thank you for the super chat. This was from yesterday. I need to go over some ground rules, though, guys. Once I'm on camera, I'm not in the chat. But all money is good money, Brian, so thank you again. But I need y'all to keep these comments coming in. Now, what I would really like for you to do is drop a super chat. I understand that this is Bidenomics, but y'all got me in the chat like this, trying to keep up with the comments because y'all be saying so much stuff, but it's hard for me to pick something out. So if you really like me, as you say you do, with all the compliments coming in, make it easy for you, girl, because it's hard. Today, y'all started out with a fight. Jason, they were in there fighting. Some people were happy that you were talking about Caitlin Clark. Then there were those that felt like, I'm not coming back to this show until you stop talking about Caitlin Clark. They feel like you're obsessed. They didn't understand the cultural comparison. We had people in the chat throwing jabs, and then there were some men in there that were, just fighting in the chat. It was all over the place. So, some people don't understand it. But then as you continue to talk, people started to understand exactly what your point was and why you were doing it. I had Jeff Ray said, you got me thinking. The push to admit a female cadet into the Citadel from 1993 to 1995 was a crucial moment in time. So they began to understand, and some of the people in the chat are hilarious. They're comedians, and they started to say what the name of the league should be now. Instead of the WNBA, they came up with their own names. We had the LNBA, for Lesbian National Basketball Association. We had some people saying, somebody said the Lesbian Activist League. We had the LOL League, which is the League of Lesbians. But my favorite name in the chat was the Nappy Wig League. That was by far the funniest to me. So people started to get on board. We had Phil Arnold, who loved your idea of an XX league. He said, seriously, get some owners to form the AWBA, American Women's Basketball Association. So then you had people saying, well, the new league, we got to have some rules. And for the rules in this new league, they said no wigs, no nails, no eyelashes, and no tats. And I will tell you, Jason, there was an alleged angry lesbian in the chat that didn't like that. She began to, and just the way she was talking, I feel like she was a lesbian, not a dyke. There's a difference in my opinion. So she was upset.
Hold on,
now,
what's the difference?
Okay, lesbians are women that like other women, okay? Sometimes they're still dainty, or even if they're not as dainty, they don't think they're men. Dykes are the ones that come with the starter kit, locks, wife beaters, and sagging pants. Although they're still on the same aisle with everybody else during that time of the month. They're still on the tampon aisle, but they pretend they aren't. So that's the difference. Gotcha. Now, when you started talking about female coaches, and this is when I'm going to let you step in, Deborah D said, how come women can raise strong, competent male athletes on their own, but cannot coach them? This is where I want you to chime in.
Well, because she's wrong. And so those young men, they're coached by other men. Period, end of story. And so until one of these women is the head coach of the Pee Wee football team, the head coach of the Pee Wee basketball team, the head coach of the high school team, junior high team, and all of that, miss me with all of it, because trust me, I've been involved. The sport I know the least about, baseball, I actually spent some time coaching. And what you have is a lot of single mothers turning their young boys over to the coach. He needs a man in his life. You need to make him a man. I'm putting him in this sport so you can be an influence on him, blah, blah, blah. That's what you got going on. And so, yeah, if someone has the genetics athletically and you can feed him 2 or 3 meals a day and blah, blah, and hand him off to some male coach to shape him into some athlete, great. But you ain't doing the actual coaching on the field. And I know Lamar Jackson's mama threw the football with him and blah, 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 but she ain't done no real coaching. So, listen, at the end of the day, when you have a more mature worldview, you would really realize that none of us are responsible for any of this, man or woman. It's all God. And so, and God has a prescription, a game plan that he wants us to follow. He wants that daddy, he wants that male leadership. I'm not gonna second guess God on this, young lady, and you can beat your chest and say, look what we did, look what this woman did. You ain't did nothing. And I haven't done anything. In them journalism awards I've won, any of the success, I ain't done nothing. And so you need to come up out of that, but we do need to follow God's plan, because if you want to take credit for the handful, the small amount of guys that make it to the NFL or NBA because of female leadership, I want you to take credit for all them dudes in jail, 6 feet under, in a gang, doing all this mischief, looting and all that. Take credit for that too. Say y'all did that too, because we have a matriarchal culture that's not working, and we can't look at a handful of examples and say, yeah, see, look what we did. Let's go look at the rest. And look, men are to blame for that as well, but that would be my response to her.
All right, Jason, that's pretty much all I have today. I do want to again tell them, keep the comments and the compliments coming in. I love y'all compliments, but leave them in the chat. It goes down in the DM, but not in mine. I understand that this has turned to a sports show, but don't roll up in my DM to shoot your shot, okay? I just want to make that clear.
Thank you, Shemeka. We're going to have some Tennessee harmony. We're going to tie this all in a bow. What we talked about earlier, I want to run it by Kevin Donahue and Virgil Walker and have a little Tennessee harmony at the end of this show as we talk about the role of women. How should we feel about the role of women in sports? What do they think of my league of their own? Men needing private spaces, women needing private spaces. Virgil and Kevin next. Don't miss a second of Fearless. We'll be right back, but check out this clip from an earlier show. But this whole deal where we have gone, hey, people with serious mental illness, a man with a bat and balls running around pretending to be a woman has a mental illness. It's not a controversial statement. Because if I said today, hey, you know, people that are racist have a mental illness, everybody just nod their head and clap. Yeah, you're right. But if I say a man with a bat and balls that thinks he's a woman has a mental illness, oh, now I've crossed the line. Now I've gone too far. It's this cis rights movement. I think most people with common sense, we can all agree on and we can all rally around this. And this movement, the CIS rights movement, the protection of the belief that there are differences between men and women that must be recognized, and we must make rules that bow to those facts. It's an important issue that can bring people together, and this is the point I wanted to make about Utah. Got a little sidetracked, started rambling, but Utah is a different kind of state. It's conservative, but it has conservative in name only type people like Mitt Romney. All right, welcome back. Time for some Tennessee harmony as we put a biblical lens on conversations we've been having. Virgil Walker, Kevin Donahue. Anthony's at a conference and is out of town. Virgil, could you start us off with a prayer?
Yeah. Father God, we just give you thanks and praise for who you are. Grateful for the opportunity to have these kinds of conversations. I pray that you be with us in all things. We pray this in Christ's name. Amen.
Amen. Guys, I've been talking a lot today about separate spaces for men and women and how they've used sports to blur the lines on, hey, we don't need separate spaces. We're all the same. And now we've got a woman coaching in the National Hockey League. We've got the angry lesbian feminists running the WNBA and being very hostile to a person who could actually save the league, Caitlin Clark. We have volleyball players at San Jose State playing with a male teammate, and other schools saying, hey, I'm not doing that. We'd rather forfeit than play you guys with your male player. They've just really blurred the lines. And I know many people, hey, don't use the word cis. And in this case, I am, because I want to throw it back in their face. But I think we're at the start of really understanding, like, cis people, cis rights. We need that. And it's really just us saying and defining that, like, no, men and women are different, and we need separate spaces. And there's nothing wrong with separate spaces. And my argument, Virgil, Kevin, earlier today was like, we're so focused on being conservatives and conserving things that we never play offense. Mm-hmm. Hey, how about let's go out and build the kingdom? How about we go out and build things rather than just try to conserve things, always playing defense? But anyway, just from, Virgil, get us rolling here, just from a biblical point of view, am I wrong for thinking that men and women clearly need separate spaces, and now people are starting to realize that?
No, I think you're spot on. The reality is, ever since the beginning, we understand that men and women, while equal in the sight of God, from a standpoint of who we are as human beings created in His image and likeness, you see this in Genesis 1:27. The reality is we are different, and those differences matter. They're complementary differences. There's the strength of a male, the ability for a male to protect and provide provision and fight, and all of these kinds of things that are necessary for the protection of women. Women who are more nurturing, more loving, more caretaking. Those differences matter. I think what you have happening within the sports world, it's the last great meritocracy. Sports is the last bastion of a meritocracy, and the left cannot stand for that. They want equality in every way, shape, and form. Equity really is what they're after, and the idea behind it is, if they can tear down this last bastion of where masculinity is celebrated, where men who have become the best of themselves and gotten involved in sports and athletics, if they can tear that down, then they've actually won. They've muted all masculinity throughout society, and they've actually won. And I think for us to go on offense and state, no, we're not taking that anymore. Yes, we're going to have male spaces. Yes, we're going to have men in sports, and that there are other things that women can pursue that are more in line with who they are as human beings. I think that's the best way to go.
Kevin?
I like what you said. We're playing defense. Unfortunately, men in Western culture have been pacified. You know, we have been playing soft, and we have to really take the lead and be offensive, like you mentioned. Do you remember, I think it was after Trump was elected, all the people went down to D.C. and they had those pink hats on that were supposed to be like a uterus or something, and they were all screaming at the top of their lungs. I went out to every woman in my life and I asked them, because I was concerned, I said, man, are women being treated unequally in our society? I asked my mother, my sister, everyone in my life, and I said, have you ever felt like you didn't have an opportunity in this world? And they said, never. Like, I can pursue whatever I want. And I said, what are they rallying down in DC for? What's that all about? And they're like, I have no idea. But it was really a propaganda push. It was the offensive push to make men be passive. And so when it comes to sports, when it comes to anything, I am all about meritocracy, right? If I'm hiring a lawyer, I want to hire the best lawyer. I don't care their skin color, I don't care their gender, it doesn't matter, right? If I'm hiring a salesperson or whatever it may be, it's all meritocracy. But we are completely different, clearly, biologically, our visions of the world, our brains, our hormones, we are completely different. In fact, we're opposite. So we have to honor that, and like Virgil was mentioning, men are really here to provide and protect. And so we have to be on the offensive now, I believe, in order to protect these spaces that, so that women can have their own space. I mean, the story you just mentioned about, is it San Jose State?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. I couldn't believe it. I mean, the challenge there was I didn't know it was a guy.
Yeah.
I couldn't tell.
Yes.
Right? I mean, so that's the other problem we're having now, is that the lines are blurring as far as how people show up.
It's you've driven me a slightly different direction. I'm gonna get off this road for one quick second, then I'm gonna hop back on the road. But it's one of the things that concerns me about Instagram and Twitter. It's like remember when Dylan Mulvaney was a big deal, and that picture and content about him just kept repeatedly showing up on my timeline, and I'm like, I don't want to see this.
Right.
I don't want, and it's all part of a normalization process. And so, and I was thinking this 3 or 4 years ago, whatever that Dylan Mulvaney thing was popular, it's like this, and then we get here, and they kept showing the facial shot of the San Jose State player and talking, and I was like, oh, I actually thought that was a woman.
Right.
And I go, they've done it. They've blurred our vision through these social media apps that it's like, oh my God. And so it's like, I try to fast forward through all of that, but I really want to, Virgil's point connects everything that we're talking about on the show today about the end of merit. That's what I think all of this is about. And merit is so important. And when I think about everything that I was discussing today about Bronny James, hey, it's not merit. We're just going to stick him in this deal. This 32-year-old attractive woman, we're going to make her an assistant coach in the NHL. And you know what? In football, we're going to try to color scheme the coaching jobs. It's not about merit. It's just, does it look right? And we're normalizing that everyone's sitting around thinking about, how can I make things look equal rather than how can I find the best person for this job? How does a society survive if we go that route? Because everybody wants the best doctor, everybody wants the best veterinarian, everybody wants the best pilot. I want the best bus driver, Uber driver. But when you kill merit, you're killing the society. Hey, become a third world country is basically what the end game is.
Right.
Virgil?
Absolutely. In fact, I went to when I knew we were going to be discussing this. I kind of went back to look from a standpoint of the Olympics to see where did this start? How do we get to where we are today? Where the lines are so blurred, and it really is the pendulum has swung in a totally different direction. You know, the Olympic Games, you know, the information there is that it started in 700 BC. You had the Olympic Games, and you didn't have women in Olympic sports until the 1900s, and then there was a massive push. In fact, the last Olympics in 2023 or 2024 was considered the first gender equal Olympics, the gender equality. And that's the point at which you had 50% women and 50% men that were in the Olympic Games. And again, while that may be celebrated in some ways worldwide, it really creates a considerable problem with more and more professionals going into sports and with women going into professional sports and leaving the opportunity that they have to be mothers, to be homemakers, to be caretakers of their homes. These women should not be going into professional sports. I thought about Caitlyn Jenner, not Caitlyn Jenner, about Caitlyn going
Clark.
into Caitlyn Clark going into basketball. I thought, what kind of mate is going to have his wife playing professional basketball, and what is he going to do? What does that look like? I thought that creates all kinds of problems as she's now ill prepared to really engage in what she was created for, which is a wife, a mother, and family. I know that's not a popular idea. I know that's a push against what culture is dictating, but I think those are the kinds of things we have to say and stand for if we're ever going to see this pendulum swing the opposite direction. Because what we're witnessing, Jason, is an absolute attack on merit. It's no longer do we find merit. It's about what woman we can put in place, what cross-gender person we can put in place, all of these issues that are unrelated to the actual play of the sport.
Virgil, you went to the discussion that I need to have and want your thoughts, and Kevin, you follow in. So you would be against an XX basketball league. You think that's the wrong, because it shows up in my email. Jason, I get you like Caitlin Clark, but I think you're going too far. It's unbiblical, your passion and push for Caitlin Clark. Are the complaints right?
Yeah, I think they are. I get. Jason, you did a show episodes ago where you looked at her numbers, up against some of the major basketball players, and they don't even there's not even a comparison from a standpoint of meritocracy. I get everyone's excited, but what's happened with Caitlin Clark is the pendulum has swung in favor of this feminist push, right? That attached with woke ideology, that attached with the absolute push against meritocracy. All of those things have collided for her. I'm not saying she's not a good basketball player. She's great. She was great at the collegiate level. Really, that's the end of the celebration. For us to take that celebration into this professional career, I mean, you guys mentioned it on the previous segment. What ends up happening to these women is they're devoid of any love and affection for men anymore. They begin their affection now transfers to other women, and they completely abandon everything that they were created for. Femininity, womanhood, marriage, children, family, all of those things get abandoned in pursuit of what exactly, I don't know. And we're applauding it. I think we should reject that. And if we're going to advance the cause of masculinity, I think we need to make sure that men operate in the spaces that they command and control. And have women do what women were beautifully designed to do, which is be women again, make women great again. That's what we should be doing.
Kevin?
Yeah, I tend to agree with what he's saying to a degree. What's happened is the culture has changed. I gave a talk at a high school up in Massachusetts about a decade ago. It was 11th and 12th graders, and it was a motivational talk. And then I went around and I asked the question, what would you like to do in the future? And one guy was like, I want to be a jet pilot for the Navy. I'm like, that's great, good for you, you can do that. Some gal said, she goes, I want to get married and have 5 kids. And the class went berserk, like making fun of her. And I looked at her, I said, that is the best possible goal you could set for yourself. Congratulations. If you know you want to do that, what's the next step? She was like, well, I got to find a husband. I'm like, exactly. Write out who your husband is, the quality he wants in his life. And I was so encouraged by that, but I also noticed how the culture ridiculed her because she didn't want to go to college and get a job. She wanted to be a wife and a mother. And I was like, that's so beautiful. But I think in general, what Virgil's saying is that, we do need to make men again, and we do need to make women again. I'm not opposed to Caitlin Clark going out and rocking the basketball court. I think it's awesome. Hopefully I think she has a boyfriend.
Yes.
Yeah, and hopefully she gets married. What would be amazing is if, she's rocking the basketball court, wins MVP, gets married, and then gets pregnant. Takes time away from the sport, becomes a mother, and just stays a mother. Or it comes back to the game. I don't know. Our society has evolved, maybe people would say devolved, to a place where women do have these opportunities now. So we do have to honor that to a degree, but I think celebrating women as mothers and as wives, I think is really important as well.
So Virgil, here's where it's a funny bone issue for me, particularly dealing with a weight problem. So many Americans struggle with weight. We're much heavier than we used to be, and this is a problem for women in particular. It's a problem for men and women. Obviously, I'm a living example. But when women involved in athletics, I think it's got to be good for their health to a point. I think at some point it can harm your ability to reproduce, but women off their rear ends and exercising and being involved in sport, I don't think it's all a negative, and I think there's many positives to it, and particularly when I look at someone like Caitlin Clark, who has a boyfriend, that she is immersed in a culture that is trying to push her a different direction in terms of her sexuality. And that's why I'm like, hey, let's start a different league where the culture it's actually celebrating her womanhood, and you don't need men involved dunking the basketball for people to appreciate what a woman can do on the basketball court. It's just the exercise benefits alone is what makes me, and again, I have a bias because it's my issue, but are we sure it's all bad, Virgil?
No, exercise is great for everyone. And I mean, at the end of the day, I don't think we're even talking about exercise. I need to exercise more. So, I mean, all of us need to be engaged in exercise. But what you won't find me out, dunking a basketball on a basketball court unless they make a short man's league, right? So, I mean, at the end of the day, everybody doesn't deserve to be on the basketball court. And again, I'm not saying Caitlin Clark doesn't deserve to be on the basketball court. What I'm saying is, I think the applaud of pushing her to this league again that does not celebrate women, that celebrates women acting as if they're men, is problematic for her long term. Whatever she's got going on with her boyfriend, what she needs to do is focus on the things that she needs to do to prepare for marriage. Get with that young man. He needs to put a ring on it. He needs to marry her, take her off the court and into his household and family, and that needs to be what's celebrated rather than her chucking up three-pointers everywhere.
Well, I think he says something interesting too, because so femininity can't show up unless masculinity is present. So masculinity being present creates a safe space for femininity to show up as feminine. And what's happened, I think, especially in Western culture, America maybe specifically, is that men have taken a step back and they've allowed women to lead. And so until men step up, make women feel safe, and become men again, we won't see that femininity, that feminine spirit. What I heard Virgil just say is, Caitlin Clark's boyfriend mans up, becomes the man, the head of the household, and leads her to become the wife and the mother she deserves to be, versus going out there and getting Nike money and WNBA money and all that. And that is all good. I mean, she should earn it until the guy puts a ring on it.
This went better than I thought, and I thought it would go well, but I think some interesting things have been said. Virgil, you got a final thought?
No, I agree. Whatever, Caitlin Clark's boyfriend's name is, man up, bro. Go get that ring. Go find your woman. Go put her, find her a dress and go get married and live happily ever after. Make some babies, make some basketball babies, and call it a day. That's the celebration. I'll celebrate Caitlin when that happens. I'm down for that.
Virgil's email address is virgil@gmail.com. Send all the complaints to virgil@gmail.com. I had nothing to do.
BibleBully.com. I don't care.
Yeah, BibleBully.com. I may agree with what Virgil said here. I might, but I'm not going to say it out loud. Don't direct any of that at me. I'm a Caitlin Clark fan, but Virgil has shaken me up. We'll play some harmony, and we'll see you tomorrow.
Up so divided, stop fighting and stand tall. We used to be a nation, one united. Now we're headed for downfall. God, let your light shine down. What we need more than anything now, harmony. Let's make a simple vow. Let's come together now. Harmony. Put all your weapons down. Love one another now. Time for us to wake up. Choose love, my sister, my brother. See through the lies they tell us. 'Cause together we're so much stronger. God, let your light shine down. What we need more than anything now. Harmony. Let's make a simple vow. Let's come together now. Harmony. Put all your weapons down. Love one another now. Harmony. Fear is the enemy. Won't let it get to